So do the viewers at home need a new live stream for themselves, or?
It should pop up in the YouTube and in the Facebook channels again, just like the last one.
Yeah.
So we'll give a second here for everybody. You know, I might. Let's see. All right, we got some people coming. I think that's just Grizz. The automatic one. Let me see here. What is that happening? I don't. All right, there we go. There's the live. What is that happening? I don't. All right, there we go. There's the live. Oh man, I don't know. Hey, there's a little twisted. Hey, buddy, there you go. You hear us loud and clear now? No issues. All right, fantastic. All right, they're starting to come in, Chris. Here we go. Apparently, when I left it, it totally shut down the thing, so I had to create a new event. So it might take a little bit to get our audience back in, which I was not expecting that. But hey, now I know, right?
Amen.
Learn from experience.
All those fellows, we do 80s music and sit and jam.
That's it. We'll put on some music and we'll wait for some more people to come back in. Let me see. I think that was the one we liked. Blair, how you doing, bud? How you doing? Had some technical difficulties on the last show, so we had to restart it, and I think we're good to go. Let's just wait for our listeners. Kathy's back. Hey, Kathy, welcome back. Little Twisted said that our audio was good now. So we're just kind of waiting for everybody to be able to come back in here. Get down, Christopher. Kathy's agreeing, saying that she can hear us loud and clear. Fantastic. Good.
Thank you, Kathy. And hello, Rachel, for watching. Thank you. And hello, everybody.
Wait for a few more people here. Give them time to find us again. Had to create a whole new event episode for us, so everybody a chance to come back in and find us. Let's see. Yeah, right, Little Twisted. Gotta love technology. Absolutely. They got some good selections for us on here.
Oh, yeah.
Try this one. Some drum beats. You guys coming in on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell so you get alerted whenever we put out a new show on Bigfoot Outlaw. You know, I'm half tempted to say Bigfoot Outlaw Radio or something, because that's what it feels like, but Bigfoot Outlaw YouTube channel.
And don't forget to check out MUFON.com and even my paranormal show that we do, SWPI Peeking on YouTube. We got some great new investigations getting ready to go down and coming up, so it's going to be a fantastic year.
I will give it just a minute here. We'll go ahead and get started. I think everybody's had enough time to try and come back in.
If you always want to take my psychic remote viewing classes, send me an email at mufon.chris@yahoo.com. We'll put you down.
Do we have a scroll for you on here? I don't think we do. Let me look.
No, you may not. I don't think you do, actually.
You know, I never put one together for myself either.
You know, we're getting ready to teach a time travel class this September, so it's going to be a great year.
Nice. All right, let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and get started. We'll cut the music here and we'll let you have at it, Chris, and let's just get started again. Let's go ahead. We were talking about Roswell before we had our technical difficulties. You were giving us kind of a rundown for somebody that may not be too familiar with the Roswell incident. So let's go ahead and just start there again and just take her away and let her run.
All right. So yes, we're talking about the new information on Roswell. We're going to be discussing some new information that scientifically proves that Roswell did happen. You're going to see some great photos, hear some great stories, and we're going to prove to you that Roswell did happen. Let's go back now. So what I want to do is take you back to, for those who aren't familiar with Roswell, exactly what is Roswell and how did it get its name. So we're going to go and take you back for just a second here, and so it began in the summer of 1947 at the dawn of the Cold War, when the U.S. Army Air Forces sent out a shocker of a press release announcing they had recovered a flying disc from a rancher near Roswell more than 70 years ago. The incident remains a defining aspect of the area's identity. But behind all the UFO mania lies an uneasy truth that transpires and admitted cover-ups and conflicting explanations. It was a saucer, or was it a weather balloon, or was it a spy craft? And I think everybody can agree that something did go down. Now, let's take you back. Now, sometime in between the mid-June or early 1947, a rancher, Mac Purcell, found the wreckage on his sizable property in Lincoln County, New Mexico, approximately 75 miles north of Roswell. Several flying disc and a flying saucer stories had already appeared in the national press that summer, leading Brazil to believe the wreckage, which included rubber strips, tinfoil, and thick paper, might be something that he brought some of the material to the Sheriff George Wilcox of Roswell, who in turn brought it to the attention of Colonel William Blanchard, the commanding officer of the Roswell Army Field. Now, the next day, they released a statement writing that the many rumors regarding the flying disc became a reality yesterday when the intelligence office of the 509th Bomber Group, the 8th Air Force Roswell Army Airfield, was fortunate enough to gain possession of a disc through the corporation of one of the local ranchers at the Sheriff's Office of Shaves County. The following day, the Roswell Daily Record ran a story about the crash and the astonishing claims, but the U.S. Army officials quickly reversed themselves on the flying saucer claim, stating that the found debris was actually from a weather balloon. Baloney, releasing photographs of Major Marcel posing with pieces of the supposed weather balloon debris as proof. We're going to show you a photo right now of that weather balloon that Jesse Marcel was holding up. Now, I can assure you that if you look at the photo, and everybody always agrees on this, if you look at the photo of him holding up the weather balloon, you can see the expression on his face. This was not a weather balloon. I mean, and so you're going to see that photo here in just a second. And
Got some people more coming in. Melinda, hey, how you doing? Denise, Rachel, thanks for joining us. Had a little bit of technical difficulties to start. Oh, I'll wait till you bring that picture back up. Sorry. Then we'll pull it on there.
Okay, here we go right here. And here's this is the photograph of the Jesse Marcel holding up the wreckage, or the weather balloon, I should say. And as you can see in this, excuse me, there it is. And this is the photo of him holding up the weather balloon. This is actually the newspaper article, one of the newspaper articles. And you look on his face. If you see his face, he's got that puzzled look on his face, like, "What am I doing with this?" Because they did not find a weather balloon, despite what the stories claim. And but yet he was forced to hold it up and tell the world that this was a weather balloon when it clearly was not. So moving on here to the remainder of the story, and this is what. And if you have any ideas or anything you want to add, put it in the chat box, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. For decades, many UFO researchers were skeptical of the government's changed account, and in 1994, the U.S. Air Force released a report in which they conceded that the weather balloon story had been bogus. They actually admitted it was bogus. According to the 1994 explanation, the wreckage came from a spy device created for an unit then classified project called Project Mogul. The device, a connected string of high-altitude balloons equipped with microphones, was designed to float over the USSR, detecting sounds and sound waves at a stealth distance. These balloons would ostensibly monitor the Soviet government's attempts at testing their own atomic bomb. Because Project Mogul was a covered operation, the new report claimed a false explanation of the crash was necessary to prevent giving away details of their spy work. Now, other elements of the Roswell story, namely that some eyewitnesses claimed that there were alien bodies taken from the site, were explained as fallen parachute test dummies in a more extensive follow-up. So now you got the weather balloon mumbo jumbo, and then you got the crash dummies, and so now what they're doing is they're covering their tracks up, trying to pass this off as being something other than what it really was, which was a crash landing. Now Roger, a historian and retired curator for the Division of Space History at the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum, says those two reports close most of the remaining questions about Roswell. The story has been resolved, he says. He has absolutely every question been answered. I can't say that, but I'm not sure that there are significant holes. You do not divulge state secrets in the context of national security. My summarize is they probably saw the flying saucer as a useful cover story. Donald Schmidt, who I'm friends with, a UFO researcher who has spent nearly 3 decades investigating the Roswell incident and is the co-founder of the International UFO Museum and Research Center in Roswell, says that explanation makes little sense. The flying saucer story, he contends, was so ostentatious that it was bound to draw attention to these areas, which its sensitive military operations at the time. Now, doing so would seem highly counter to the interest of War Department. Now, get this: 2 hours west of Roswell, the first atomic bomb was detonated. You had ongoing atomic. No, we got. Sorry about that. You have ongoing atomic research at Los Alamos. You have had all this testing of captured German V-2 rockets at White Sands and at Roswell. You had the first atomic bomb squadron headquarters, Schmidt says. Donald Schmidt, my friend, says that they thought that they would have intentionally set up any type of publicity as a destination. If anything, they needed less attention. We're going to do a screen share now, and you're going to see another photo that I find very interesting that I want everybody to take a look at here. And this take a second. Let's see here. We'll do a. pull this up real quick, and this is an interesting photo because what I'm going to show you here is this is a map indicating where Roswell went down, the Roswell incident. I'll bring this up as big as I can. And this happened between 11:45 p.m. on July 4th, 1947. You can see where there was pointing. This is a map of Roswell, the Roswell incident. And I actually heard interviews. I can state this. I can't give out names, but I heard an interview with a gentleman who was at the site of the Roswell crash. I know this for a fact. He actually saw the bodies from Roswell, the alien bodies, and one of the bodies was still intact and alive at the time that he witnessed this. And then they carted the bodies off. Now I can say this for an absolute fact that this gentleman is legitimate and his statements it was true. I saw the interview. We saw it, I should say, and it is real. I wish I could share that here, but he saw the bodies when they were being removed from the crash because he was one of the gentlemen that pulled up to the crash site after this had happened, and he saw the bodies being carted off, and one of them was still alive at the time. And do we have any questions up at this point?
Not seeing any questions out there right now. Everybody's just fascinated and listening to you, man. What was the other on the map? Was that kind of like the flight path that they were looking at? What was all those red arrows indicating?
Yeah, indicating where they thought that, where they assumed that the crash went, or the UFO went down and made that turn.
Okay. And then what was the other? Because there was the long one that you said like pointed off to the side, but there was another arrow pointing down. Was it like something separated? Was there a different crash site? Was there more than one site? Or what did that other arrow indicate, that other pathway?
That was, I do believe that was, there was two possible explanations for where the UFO had originally took off, and the bigger arrow that you saw, that was where the actual crash landing was, but the other arrow was where they had, I think, from what I understand, that's where they originally thought that the crash landed.
Okay. A little twisted was asking, do we know what made the craft go down?
That is a very good question, and I can answer that. Based on everything that we have learned and we have gathered so far, and even Donald Schmidt who had researched, there is no actual idea of what made the craft go down. There has been speculation of malfunction with the craft, but they haven't proved anything yet. And so that is a good question. If I ever find any more information on that, I'll be happy to share that here on the show next time. Hello, Denise and Twisted Sister and everybody. Thank you for watching. So, another question theory advanced by the book Area 51. For those who haven't read that book, get that. That is an excellent book. And An Uncensored History of America's Top Secret Military Bases states that the crashed flying vehicle was neither extraterrestrial nor the work of U.S. spies. It states that rather it was an unconventional plan to induce widespread American panic implemented by Soviet strongman Joseph Stalin. Now, an unnamed source who worked as an engineer at the Area 51 for the defense contractor told the book's author that a veteran national security journalist and Pulitzer Prize nominee that the program had been designed by Nazi concentration camp doctors, Joseph Mengele. According to the source, children were deformed by the Soviets to resemble aliens. They were saying that it was kids dressed as aliens, which we know that's not true, but then deployed in an aircraft to fly over New Mexico. According to this book, these were kids dressed up as aliens and told to fly over the Roswell. The plan was for children to climb out and be mistaken for visitors from Mars, and panic would ensue. So that theory could go some way in explaining the wreckage described by Jesse Marcel, the son of the intelligence officer named in the initial press report. Now, according to Marcel, who I I have spoke to at one point. The Roswell legacy and his father brought some of the UFO wreckage home, allowing his son to handle the debris before he took it to the base. Now, the debris he brought home, for those who are unfamiliar with that, was a piece of the craft. And when he would fold that craft, that debris, fold it and mold it and twist it, whatever, it would, within a matter of seconds, it would form back to its original form. Now, I'm going to give you guys a little piece of information, some new information that I know for a fact. There was another piece of that debris that is buried under the house, and that was put there specifically, I should say specifically, to be found at a later date. It is under the house, and of course that debris, the way the house is fixed up now, you can't really get to it, but it is buried underneath there. I know that for a fact because it was put there so that way years later they would have proof of the Roswell incident. I know this from firsthand source. I won't give out names, but Marcel Jr. wrote that the material was metallic, and he said, I could see what looked like writing at first. I thought of Egyptian hieroglyphics, but there was no animal outlines or figures. They weren't mathematical figures either. They were more like geometric symbols, squares, circles, triangles, pyramids, and the like. Marcel Jr. was 11 years old at the time, and the Cold War was only just beginning. Could the young boy have been reading the Cyrillic alphabet for the first time, allowing his imagination to do the rest? On this, Schmidt and Lawrence agreed it's not likely. Okay, there is no evidence in any Soviet archives that there were such experiments as this, says Lunas. And if the intent was to generate panic, it failed utterly. So there was no big so there was no big panic like what they thought it would be. They were expecting like everybody to go in the streets and panic, and that never did happen. However, what did happen was, as years went on, of course, Jesse Marcel, went on to kind of keep quiet for quite a few years about this, but then he later on did come out publicly and state, this is what I had, I know, I seen, and he even said that the whole cover up with the weather balloon was bogus. He even admitted that to the public, and we know now that there was definitely a UFO that went down. Now, I'm gonna do a screen share real quick, and you're gonna see another photo of this is a really excellent photo. I want everybody to take a look at this because this photo shows. Let me do a screen share here. All right, here we go.
While you're pulling that up, Chris, a little twisted wanted to know, then how did the pilots get hurt if the craft is self-healing? So if you have a craft where the material kind of returns back to shape and it's so durable, how did the craft itself break apart?
That is a good question.
It's a really good question. I've never thought about that.
Right, and I never thought, that is true. Okay, so Jesse Marceau brought this piece of debris home, and I guess another piece was hidden under the house. But okay, anyways, so he brought the debris home, and as when you twist and mold the debris, it goes back to its original form. Now, if they can do that, why couldn't the craft heal itself? The only thing I come up with is the crash landed, and I guess maybe the crash broke in pieces, as we know. Okay, so maybe the pieces the pieces could form back together, but initially when it broke, it couldn't all form in one group. I don't know for a fact. It's almost like saying that you can take a piece of a puzzle, bend it, and the puzzle piece goes back to its shape. But if the whole puzzle itself breaks into a million pieces, I guess they can't all form back into one without. I don't know, but good question though. So let me pull up that photo.
He said
here.
maybe the impact, and then that's a good possibility. Maybe it's just, it had the potentially to self-heal minor damages, but there was such a great thing, great impact there. So that's a good thought, little twisted. Standing
good.
Stones, that's a good thing. He heard that lightning strike took it out, and he read that there was 3 UFOs and that 2 of them were okay. Now that's an interesting theory as well there. All right, let's pull up that picture here that Chris is looking at here for us. What
Yeah,
do we got going on here, Chris?
this photo was taken prior to Jesse Marcel looking at the camera and making his announcement. In this photo here, he's looking at the commanding officer and wanting to know why am I holding this this crap up? This is not what we saw. This is not what went down. Okay, and a little twist to this story is a lot of people may know of a country singer, Jimmy Dean, and he was actually, from what I was told by somebody, I won't give out names, but he was in prison for just briefly for an incident that took place. Okay, while he was in there, they brought in the crash debris and it went right by his cell. He was told by these individuals, do not ever say anything. You will be in trouble. So he saw himself the crash debris, which proves again that's another proof that the incident did happen, that the crash did happen. In fact, one of Donald Schmidt's books, Donald Schmidt has a book, an author, and in his book he talks about Jimmy Dean's UFO seeing the crash debris come in, and he also talks about some other celebrities like Elvis Presley and other people that have had UFO sightings. So it's excellent to book to read. Just go on Amazon, type up Donald Schmidt, and you can check out his books. Okay, so getting back here to the Roswell story, and we're going to take you now to some more recent proof. And for all those who believe that the 1947 Roswell incident was the crash of a vehicle and not of this Earth, in other words, something extraterrestrial, then this article is definitely, what you're about to hear is definitely for you. Virtually all those who are of the opinion that that what happened in New Mexico in 1947 was the crash of a spaceship pilot by aliens will never change their minds, no matter what added to this. Of course, it is the claim that the U.S. authorities retrieved the crashed spaceship and its crew, and a cover-up has been in place ever since. Definitely. The Roswell incident is probably the most debated case in ufology, and I dare say that more books have been written about this one case than any other. There's been more publications of the Roswell incident than any other UFO story in history. As the founder and publisher of Flying Disc Press, one of our UFO members, has published a book on Roswell, and this was Understanding Roswell is the name of the book. So if you go to Amazon, look up Understanding Roswell, you'll love the book. It is phenomenal. In this book, he talks about, and it just released about some new evidence that has been found, or not evidence, but new proof that the UFO Roswell incident did take place. And you're going to hear about that in just a second. Skeptics of the Roswell case are of the opinion that it was a weather balloon and nothing exotic at all. The weather balloon explanation was put forward from day one by General Ramsey. In later years, the U.S. authorities would claim it was a balloon and also said it was Project Mughal, a secret study by the U.S. authorities looking for indications in atmosphere that the Soviet Union had tested a nuclear device. Although Project Mughal was secret, the material they used was pretty much of that shelf, including the weather balloon. Extensive research by Kevin Randall has shown that even in the Project Mughal logbooks, they did not launch anything that would coincide with the date of the Roswell incident. However, this is still the official explanation by the U.S. Air Force. Now, in May of 2024, here we go, I was contacted by a chap called David Jones. David is the author of a new book entitled The Roswell Memo. This book deals with one of the photographs taken at Roswell Army Air Force Airfield on Tuesday, July 8th, 1947. A photojournalist named Jesse Bond Johnson. The military man in charge of the Times was General Ramsey, and it had been in the base intelligence officer Major Jesse Marcel, who had earlier been dispatched to the Foster Ranch outside of Roswell, after a local rancher, Mark Brazel, had brought some old-looking debris uh, into Roswell to the sheriff's office. The sheriff, in turn, phoned the military base, which sent Marcel to investigate. One of the photos shown General Ramsey crouching down. He has a document in his hand. Now, what that looks like typewritten information on it. It was this photo that David Jones, the book, concentrates on. So if you get the book, you can read all about this, even in more depth than what I'm giving you here. And what they did was they took this photograph and or this document, and they did enhance the document. And in the document, you're going to hear about that in a second. It tells exactly what went down on that day. So just so we are clear, here is now here's how the photos came about here's how the photos came about. Okay, since it has been suggested that General Ramsey had invited reports from Fort Worth Star Telegram to his office, and since some of the quoted materials came from a website that hosted the interview with James Bond Johnson, the reporter, I thought I could clarify some of this by posting the following. This is from my from his second interview that with Johnson. And in this interview, he says, "I note that Johnson claimed I had called him cold, and he has no opportunity to review his notes or the newspaper articles that appeared in 1947. Though in the first interview, he actually reads that July 9th, 1947 article that claimed to have been written, or in other words, he was not called cold. There are other indications in that interview that he has already reviewed his UFO file, that he has had talked to Betty Hudson at the University of Texas and Arlington, and he was aware of that she had forwarded a copy of my letter to him, which gave him my telegram number. She would tell him to facilitate or communicate. So in March of 1989 interviews, I said, could you just sort of tell me what you did, what transpired when your editor gave you the assignment to go out to the base? In response, Johnson said, my name is Bond. It's also James Bond Johnson. It's the original I'm the original to the master spy by the name of Bond, James Bond. I was a reporter and backup photographer for the Fort Worth Star Telegram in July of 1947, after having served in the Air Corps as a pilot cabinet. On the Tuesday, July 8th, 1947, late in the afternoon, I returned from an assignment at my office in the city room of the Fort Worth Star Telegram, which was both a morning and afternoon newspaper. My city editor of the morning paper ran over and said, Bond, have you got your camera? I said, yes, I have it in my car. I had 4 cameras. So what happened was, for those of you who are, I'm going to do a screen share here. I'm going to show you guys a photo. So what he did was he was a delivery, made a delivery to the deliver information to telegram to the Roswell base, and with that delivery that he made to the that telegram that he delivered. Okay, so what that telegram stated was it was handwritten, and that telegram stated that the Roswell incident did take place, and in that, and they took I'm going to show you a photo of what I'm talking about here. So let me just pull this up.
You know, Amy was saying earlier, and Amy, I did see it. I'm not ignoring you. She said she had a theory as to why the UFO crashed. Incompetence. Just because they're aliens does not mean they're great pilots. They probably make mistakes and stuff just like we do. I don't think I've ever heard anybody put forth the idea that, hey, maybe they just messed up. And that's a possibility, right? I mean, they're fallible just like we are. Maybe, somebody spilt their coffee right as they were coming in on entry, and next thing you know, they're hitting the ground. I mean, I
Yeah,
can't say human error, right? But, operator issues. I guess that would be a feasible possibility there.
yeah, I can tell you firsthand that when the UFOs do fly, they're not perfect. I mean, they do the best. They do have a tendency to make mistakes. Luckily, with their maneuver abilities, they can pretty much counteract an incident before it happens. But there are times when they can't. And in this particular Roswell incident, now here you have a photo of James Bond Johnson. Now he delivered a telegram from the Roswell base, and when you deliver this telegram, there were some photos taken of the telegram before it was sent out. Okay, they were able to take that photo of that was taken of the telegram in the commander's hand. Okay, they were able to take that photograph, enhance it, and zoom in, and actually read words off that telegram, stating on that telegram that the UFO crash did indeed take place. They actually were able to take piece by piece, letter by letter, and piece things together best they could. That proves in sentence that the UFO crash landing did take place, that it was indeed a crash UFO and not a weather balloon, not a spy balloon, not Project Mogul and all that. That it did actually happen. And this photo here is the James Bond Johnson, the guy that delivered that picked up the telegram. And then we're going to do another photo here. If I can pull it up here, then we'll do another screen share. Let's see here. Where am I at? Okay, yes. Pull it back up. You're going to see the telegram here in this next photo. Do a screen share. Let's do a. All right. Here's the photograph. I'm going to zoom in here if everybody can see. There is the telegram here in his hand. And there's another photo. I don't have that exact photo. I'm leaving that out because I can't show that here. But in that particular photograph, they were able to take letters and numbers from the telegram, and they were able to piece things together with enhancements, computerized enhancements, to read the words indicating that there was a crash landing and that indeed alien bodies were recovered and the UFO did land. And I've actually seen the photograph. We've seen that in MUFON, and it is legitimate. And so it proves that there was a crash landing that went down that day in Roswell, New Mexico.
Now, all these pictures that you're showing us here, like this, that is still the fake debris, right? That's the
Yes.
stuff that they were calling the so-called foil weather balloon.
Yes.
Um, this is also that same basic photo shoot when they were trying to do the cover up. Um, and with that, a little twisted was wondering, what is your opinion as to why this UFO was so hidden and covered up at the time?
Yes. I will get to that. And here is
Okay,
in the
we'll
hand.
get there a little twisted.
Yeah. 1 second. This in his hand is a telegram that he was getting ready to send out, stating to whoever he sent this to that this crash did happen. And now we'll get back to a little twisted question. My opinions on that is, let me get out of here. All right. My opinions on that is like this. I feel that the reason they covered this up was because of the fact they had all of this crash debris. Okay, now you think about the crash debris they had, how you can mold that and it would return back to its shape. And in fact, they even had one alien body that was indeed intact, that did survive and made it alive for a brief while, anyways, before it passed on. They had all of this going on. They had so much debris, that they felt like they'd almost like finding a pot of gold in a way. Now, when you find that pot of gold, do you want to share it with everybody, or do you want to keep it for yourself? At first they were like, yeah, a UFO crash landing. But then once they realized, oh boy, look at what we got here, then they immediately changed their stories because they didn't want the public to know what they had found, and the fact that all this stuff, has in a way powers to it, because you got the debris that can be molded and returned back to its original shape. You got so much going on, and not to mention the alien bodies. And in fact, the alien bodies were then placed into a boxed crate and put aboard a jet and then hauled off. And I have seen interviews with one of the gentlemen who flew on the jet, and he was like, "What's in these boxes?" And they were like, "Don't worry about it." And he basically told, don't worry about it. But he actually took a peek into one of the boxes. Of course, he got chastised for it, but he did see the bodies. And I'm going to do one more thing here before we exit. That I think everybody's really going to get a kick out of, and I saved this for last. Do you have any more questions from anyone, real quick?
Yeah, Little Twisted was saying, do you see disclosure coming on all UFOs and when? I know the government came out last year and did disclose the fact that they are UAPs and UFOs and that they have been researching them, but I believe they also didn't really specify origin or if they thought they were alien or what it was. So, do you see a full disclosure coming out on UFOs and the reality of what they are?
I do see the full disclosure coming, but it's not going to be for at least maybe 3 to 4 years. It's not going to be a complete full disclosure. They're going to give us a little bit more than what we know now, but they're still going to hide majority of the major stuff themselves. But based on what they do give us and what we already have, because we in MUFON just released at our recent symposium, we actually showed the public a piece of crash debris that we had. We unveiled it at the symposium, which was fantastic. That was just last week, if I'm not mistaken. And so we ourselves have proof of UFOs just on our investigations, and that piece of records that we showed. We have proof of UFOs as well. And what you're about to see, I'm going to show this to everybody. This is a fantastic little interview. What you're about to see and hear is kind of shocking. And so I'm going to do a screen share, and I want everybody to listen to this just for a few seconds. And this is going to more proof that there was a Roswell crash landing. And I saved this for last because this is probably the greatest piece of evidence that you'll see here tonight. And here we go. Let me pull this up here. Okay. This is a General Glenn Dennis from interview from November 19th, 1990. I want you to listen to this, and let me know if you cannot hear the interview.
No, I got no audio coming through.
Okay, let me fix that real quick. I know exactly what I did wrong, and okay, we're going to stop share, and then we're going to relaunch it, and we're going to do audio share as well.
Okay. While you're doing that, a Little Twisted ask another one. Where do you think they're coming from, sky or ground? So are they outside extraterrestrials, or are they more hollow Earth intraterrestrials, in like civilizations within the Earth?
Um, having my own UFO experiences over the years, I can say that they do come from, of course, outer space. They have what they call a mothership. Then they also have smaller ships. Of course, every UFO flying saucer is different. Some of the ones I've actually seen and been a part of myself, for, my own personal experiences. We have a home base, which is a major what we call a mothership is like our home base, and then we have smaller ships that is used to fly from home base to planet Earth and other areas. And the mothership is very heavy and very large and humongous. Our ship, or a ship, um, that we have seen is black, and then you got the smaller ships that go from where we were at back to and fly around, and these smaller ships are gray in color, whereas some other ship is black. And some of the other UFOs that people have witnessed, Tic Tacs, V-shaped crafts, even classic saucer shapes. They all seem to. Some of them are black, some are gray, and some have different. I've even heard of some that are. Sorry for the train going by, but one second. But there are many different types of sizes and shapes of craft, and they all seem to be either black or gray. Very seldom you ever hear of any other colors. But I'm going to do a screen share real quick, and you're going to see an excellent piece of an interview. This gentleman here, I'll let you guys hear it and see it for yourself. I don't want to give anything away.
Little twisted, I would just say, why do you think it has to be one or the other? Why sky or ground? Maybe it's sky and ground. Don't put yourself, don't limit the possibilities there just because of your thoughts, man. Keep it wide open because we don't know.
Okay, here we go. This is Glenn Dennis, and you're going to hear this interview. It's a fantastic interview. I'm going to play just a few minutes of it, and listen to this.
Okay, the way I became involved in this was started out in the early afternoon, around probably 1:30 in the afternoon, and I received a telephone call from the mortuary officer out at the Walker Air Force Base, Army Airfield Base, and he was inquiring about what would be the smallest possible casket that we could get that would be hermetically sealed. And at that time, I know that we had used like the 4 feet and caskets. We had used those before, but I thought they also made them in a 3/6. So, but he wanted to know if we had any in stock, and I said no. But if I can make a call to Amarillo, I can have him in, by 7 o'clock the next morning on a truck. So he said, I'll get back to you, and that was the first contact that I had with the base.
And then what?
Then he called back, probably 45 minutes or so later. And he said, I need to ask you some more questions. He said, in case something like this should happen, he said, we need to know what preparation, what your preparations are for the bodies that had been laying out in the elements, And he said, we need to know also what if your treatments of the bodies are the remains, what could you do to them, and if your treatments would it change any of the chemical breakdown of the tissues, the blood? Would it make a difference? And I said, I thought probably it would. And I said, of course, he knew exactly how we would treat those bodies because we have an outline from them and what we really have to do. I think he already at that point knew exactly what we would have to do.
Did he disclose to you what he had?
No, I told him. I said, if you have a problem, if you want, if you have something you don't really know what to do about it, let me come out, and I'll, try to help you do whatever you want to do. And he said,
okay.
And he said, no. He said,
let's just back up just a bit. Let's start again with you were saying you told him that you can come out and take care of what he had, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you pick it up from that point?
So, and he said, well, we don't really have anything. He said, we're sitting here thinking in case we should get involved in something like this, what would be our preparation? What should we do? Then I went through, I said, do you really want to know how we would do it? Well, yes, we would like to know. So that's when I explained to him that we would have the vats that we would fill up with formaldehyde solution with water, and we put the bodies in them, let them stay there for 24 hours, and then take them out, and then we would pack the bodies in. Would be a sawdust and really a lime. What we would pack them in, then wrap them in the plastic. That's bodies that were badly decomposed. If there was tissue, deep tissue, we would have to do it hypodermically with needles to get to the deep tissue. Then we would have to aspirate the cavities if the cavities hadn't already ruptured, and then put some cavity fluid in those. I said that's, kind of normal procedure.
Now, at one point, you finally offered to take care of it for them.
Well, I offered 2-3 times, yeah.
Can you review what that conversation at that point?
You mean when I offered to take care of them?
Yeah.
He said, well, we don't really, right at this time, we don't really need your assistant. But he said, in case something like this should happen, then he said we would be prepared and we would know what to do. Then we got back onto the subject of maybe not damaging any of the chemicals, compounds or anything with the bodies, or tissues, whatever, because and they wanted, how would you pick bodies up like that, and what would you do not to contaminate any of it?
Didn't this begin to seem a little strange to you at that point?
Well, I thought maybe what happened, they might have had a VIP or some officer, and something that happened. They didn't want wanted to keep it quiet, and they probably wanted to do it themselves and not be involved with the civilian businesses or anything.
Now I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit. I want you guys to hear this next piece here.
At that size and the arms at that could lift 50 pounds on the earth or anywhere else. They doubted they had that strength. But she said the one that hadn't been mutilated to a great extent, it reminded him of a real small ancient Chinese person, no hair at all, and very, very delicate skin. In fact, he said the skin would look like they could almost see through it, almost transparent.
Why don't you give me a paragraph on the ears and the nostrils?
Well, the ears, like I think I stated to you, that the ears, there was a couple of small orifices, one on top of the other, with two little lobe flaps, one over the other. They didn't really know how those, if they had any significance, how they worked or what. They didn't go into that. The nose was only a couple of very small orifices, holes right there, just above the lip line. But it had, there wasn't anything covering it. And it was just like two small indentations there, and that was it. Said it was very unusual.
Does anyone else, Don, Phil, do you have anything that you think
you're talking about the hands. The hands.
Yeah. The hands, well, there was one hand. There was one hand that evidently that wasn't attached to the arm. And she said that where she got sick and left the room was that this doctor had the long forceps and picked the hand up and turned it over. And that's when they noticed that there wasn't any thumb. None of the bodies had any thumbs or anything. They were just long, very fine, very delicate fingers, no fingernails. But right at the tip of each finger, it looked like there was a pad. And in this pad, it looked like it might have had very small they were like little suction cups, very minute suction cups. The doctors, that's the way he explained it, that was looking at it.
All right. And so now that was some of the interview. You can watch the whole interview on YouTube. I just go to Glenn Dennis interview. November 19th, 1990 is when he conducted this interview. And he actually is describing the alien bodies from the that he was told by the woman who saw all of this, because the bodies were brought in to this like I don't want to call it a mortuary, but like a place. And then this woman was examining the bodies, and then she was relating to him what she had witnessed and seen, and he was telling everybody there. And so, as you can see, obviously the crash did happen. We know that for a fact. Bodies were recovered. We know that for a fact. One of the bodies was still alive at the time of the crash, but later died. And you just heard from Glenn the description of the bodies. You just heard from him what the bodies looked like: eyes, nose, a face, fingers, and the suction cups. And you even heard him say that he was told that the hands were like see-through, like you almost see through it. So, what's your opinions? Put it in the chat box before we exit here tonight, and I'll answer any questions.
Little Twisted is asking, why did the containers have to be sealed? They said hermetically sealed, and he's wondering what the purpose of that was.
The containers were sealed, I think, to hide the bodies, because one of the gentlemen who was on board the plane when the bodies because the bodies were placed in a box crate, put aboard the jet or the plane, and then hauled off. One of the gentlemen on the plane was looking around, and he was told, stay out of there. Don't, no business in there. Well, he opened it up, and he saw one of the alien bodies. So I think they were sealed up to try to hide and disclose what had happened. It's another one of those things where they don't want anybody to know anything other than themselves.
Well, and remember too, even if this happened, right? So we're assuming this is real, they're aliens' bodies. They don't know what kind of biological contamination there might be. They don't know if these things could get us sick. They don't know if there's off-gassing, right? So hermetically sealed is just going to be for protection as well. Basically, it's an airtight vacuum seal. So if there is any potential danger, it's going to help mitigate that. So I think that's why they're looking for specifically hermetically sealed ones. And then Little Twisted also asked, what happened to those bodies in the craft afterwards? What ultimately became of them?
That we don't know, and we even us in MUFON have never been told what happened to the bodies. But I do believe that they were probably. I will say that I do know one story for a fact, and I say story, but it is true. About an underground UFO facility, and I do know some people that have worked in that facility, and there are some alien. I don't want to say remains, but alien spacecraft and different things down there. So that is where some of the stuff goes. But what happened to the Roswell bodies, I can't not say that for a fact. I don't have any proof. But if anybody has any ideas, let's hear them. What is everybody's thoughts on the Roswell crash?
Little Twisted again. Is there any autopsy report or any actual findings?
No autopsy report. But I will say, if you look at all the facts, okay, so we have the gentleman we just heard from that was getting first-hand reports of what the bodies look like. We have the telegram that was then enhanced recently to prove that it states that a crash landing did take place. We have the little piece of crash that Jesse Marcel brought home that able to bend it and it comes back into shape. We have the other piece of metal that is underneath the house, Jesse's house at the bottom, buried underneath the house. That's 4 pieces of evidence. And so that's 4 facts right there. Plus, we have the country singer Jimmy Dean, who saw the crash wreckage as it was being brought in. That's 5 pieces of evidence. And that's 5 undisputable facts of the Roswell crash going down.
Okay, and a Little Twisted again. He's got a bunch of questions. He apologized, but he says he's kind of doing a deep dive in ufology. So no problem, man. That's what we're here for. Chris, he's asking you specifically, have you remote viewed this incident or is it off limits to you?
I could remote view it, but if I do remote view anything, a lot of times I take in feelings and emotions from other people, which in this case I don't think would be an issue. But the only problem is if I do remote view this, there again, two things come to mind. All I have is my word as far as what I find out, which isn't really much proof. But then I also have the fact that if I do remote view, there is a possibility that other law enforcement, other individuals could could remote view against me or put a stop to me during my work. So we'll have to try it out and find out someday. Maybe do a part 2, and I have to do my remote viewing findings.
Sure. Catherine Gay says, Unsolved Mysteries did a show on this, said at least one body was moved to Carswell in Fort Worth and then flown up to D.C. Okay.
I heard that as well, but I can't say for a fact on some things I'm not for sure of, but it is possible.
Brian Barber, is the alien autopsy video floating around on the ones from Roswell?
No.
No.
The
Go ahead. Sorry.
The autopsy video is floating around. That is not a Roswell, and that is not scientifically proven to be alien bodies either.
I saw a great documentary on the famous autopsy video. And basically, what the original people were saying was that they had come across a copy of the autopsy that was a legitimate copy, but it was deteriorated where a lot of the scenes themselves, they couldn't get them up on film. And so they did kind of a partial recreation of it to fill in the damaged parts of the film. And so while there's some people out there claiming that the alien autopsy is a complete fake, these people have the position of no, it's not a fake video, but we did have to kind of fill in the blanks in some of the sequences that were damaged. So that was an absolutely fascinating documentary. I can't give you the name of it off the top of my head, but I thought it was really interesting to watch. So definitely keep an eye out for it, guys, if you can find it. And then a little twisted again, what do you think we learned from this incident? Did we gain any specific knowledge or technology from this?
Yes and no. We did gain some technology from it because some of the crash debris that was brought and used, I say used, but actually researched and analyzed, has helped us shape the way the world is now. But also in the fact that we did learn a lot of this because one of the most important things we learned from the Roswell crash is we learned that not only the fact that they do exist, but what we learned a lot about how stories can travel from time to time. Over the years, stories get bigger, they get thicker, and then they kind of lose their truth. And we've heard so much different aspects and stories of Roswell, but one of the biggest things we learned is that when you first hear a story or any kind of story about UFOs, don't just immediately assume, okay, yeah, it was a flying saucer. Do your research and stop and think about, okay, so what are they saying, and how could that, and is that even possible? And then do your research because when you do your research and all that, you're going to find out, oh, wait a minute, okay, that wasn't possible back then, or this person couldn't have seen that because as a field investigator, we have to go through all of our steps, okay, weather balloon, drones, birds, planes, helicopters, geese, watermarks, camera flares, sunspots, planets, or things flying in the sky that give off an illusion. Because we did a case once. It was a case that had to do with a outdoor rock and roll concert, and everybody saw this UFO in the center of the sky, and they photographed it a few times. And when you look at the photo, it looks just like a UFO, identical. And we took 6 months to finally figure this out because none of us in MUFON were actually at the concert. After 6 months of going over all the possibilities and doing all the research and all the enhancements and all that, we found out that the stage lights reflecting in the sky along with the sun, with the moon and stuff, gave off an illusion of a flying saucer in the center of the sky. But we didn't know that until we actually later on found photos of the stage lights, which gave off the UFO illusion. But for 6 months, MUFON had this pegged as a UFO incident. So when you do the research, you find out things, oh, wait a minute, things are not exactly what we think they are.
The importance of real, systematic, organized research cannot be overstated when it comes to researching anything in the paranormal preternatural world, whether it's UFOs or Bigfoot or any other phenomenon, guys. There's a big misunderstanding in the outside world that, you know, researchers just look at something and, oh, yep, that's what it is. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that call themselves researchers that do just that. You know, social media researchers. But I myself am not associated with MUFON in any way. But in the past, I have known and had long discussions with MUFON investigators. Some of them were state, I'm not sure what you guys call them, but basically the state lead investigators,
Yeah, state
um,
directors.
state directors, and I've had long conversations, and I've seen some of the evidences and how they do their research. And I'm telling you guys, like, before they present anything, they do their research. They do some amazing stuff. And I have heard recordings and seen videos that I cannot explain. I am not a big UFO person or an alien person. I have my own personal thoughts and stuff on them, but I can definitely say I have seen and heard things within the UFO world that I can't explain. And there are some definite top-notch researchers in MUFON taking the subject very seriously. So it's not just a matter of, oh, look, here's a picture. Yay, it's a UFO. Like Chris said, they did months of research into it, and they were able to figure out what it was, you know. And that's one of the key things for a researcher is you don't go in trying to prove that something's paranormal. You're actually trying to go in to prove that it's not. And when you can't prove that it's not, then you have to look at, okay, well, I guess this might be something paranormal. You know, just like with Bigfoot, just like with UFOs and all that kind of stuff. Sorry, a little
Yes,
soapbox
I've done
there.
a great job. So I've done almost hundreds of cases, about 100 cases to be exact. And I can say out of the 100 cases I've done, and that's not counting some of the other UFO abduction work I've done, but out of those 100 cases, only about, I'd say, 20 of those cases are legitimate actual UFO sightings. And the reason for that is because when people see something in the sky, their first instinct is, oh, UFO or a flying saucer. But then if you do the research, you find, oh, wait a minute, even planes and jets, they now have new lighting techniques on some of the continental jets and stuff, new lighting techniques that rotate around and give off an illusion. And if you look at the skies in just the right time of night, with maybe cloudy out or different things going on, and a jet or a plane flies by, they might give you, for a second, oh, what was that, you know? But when you do research, find, oh, wait a minute, it was not what I thought it was. And I want to say thank you to everybody for coming here tonight. And if you have any questions, for a few more minutes, put them in capital letters before we exit here tonight. I got time for a few more questions.
Anybody else out there? Amy, settle down there, kid. Amy's getting a little rambunctious there in the chat, but we love Amy. She's great.
Oh, fantastic.
Little Twisted does say he's never had a UFO experience himself. You know, I never have either. But every now and then I get people that'll send me something just because they know I'm into all the weird stuff, right? And this past year, there was an incident up in Wisconsin. I don't know if you're familiar with this, Chris, where a bunch of colored lights were seen basically darting around and flashing in storm clouds. And literally my sister-in-law sent me videos that her younger sister had taken of this incident. And I actually had a couple other people posting videos about it. And it was very strange. The consensus ended up being that maybe it was lights from Lambeau Field up in Green Bay. Maybe they were doing some kind of Christmas thing and had a bunch of spotlights flashing through the air and stuff. And it's a pretty mundane explanation. I don't know if I hold to that. They did have events going on during that time frame for Christmas, but I mean these lights to me did not seem like spotlights, simply because you couldn't see the light beam coming up to it. All you saw was the circle. right? And if you're
Right.
you're shining a spotlight into the sky, into clouds and fog, you would think, just like with a flashlight beam, you would see the beam of light flashing through the sky as well. And you couldn't see that. All you literally saw were these different lights, different colors kind of moving around.
Right.
So I thought that was a really interesting. That's the closest I've had to like a legit UFO video being sent to me. And by definition, it's a UFO and or a UAP, right? Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Right.
So we'll
Now
have to,
myself,
it was very cool, very cool.
I myself have had several UFO sightings. I can do a show based on that sometime too. But I want to say thank you to everybody for coming here tonight. It's been a pleasure seeing everybody and putting on this great show on Roswell. And I want to say thank you to Rachel for watching. Thank you to Twisted Sister, a little twisted, and everybody. And thank you here to Justin for a great show and the 80s music and all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week. And next week's show will be well, you'll find out next week. So have a great night, everyone.
All right, guys. I don't know if I'm here next week. Grizzly's just kind of popping on and saying, hey, I want you to do the show on Friday. So I don't know if I'll see you next week. If not, I will see you Thursday night, 10 Eastern on my podcast. As Grizzly would say, everybody, coast to coast around the world, everybody have a fantastic night. And we will see you next time. And let's do a little different outro tonight. Let's have... Oh, we're going to pick this one. See you guys.
Coming to a YouTube channel near you.